Dear Taurus, they believed your patience was infinite, that your endurance would never run out. But it was that very resilience that caused the ground to shake. This tremor you're experiencing isn't a punishment. It's a reconstruction, one that targets not you, but everything that clung to you, weighing you down. The universe has seen your steadfastness, and now it's time for a rebalancing, a justice that needs no lawyer. You, dear Taurus, are not collapsing. You are being guided back to the solid ground where your soul truly belongs. In this video, we will walk through 4 sacred gates, each revealing a layer of truth that has long been buried under the weight of your endurance, but is now surfacing. By the end of our journey, you will receive a confirmation from the universe you never failed. You were rescued from a land that no longer deserved your cultivation. So, if you're ready, let's step through the first gate together. We stand at the threshold where the earth will wait no longer. Here, your silent strength is no longer mistaken for agreement. Even the patience of the divine has its limits. There are moments when the ground may not roar, yet your heart trembles like a silent quake, signaling that something must change. No one warns you when it's time to let go, but the foundation within you knows. Taurus, how often have you shouldered burdens that were not yours, not with words, but with your steady presence and reliable hands? How many nights have you suppressed your own exhaustion to build stability for others? You once believed that if you remained constant, strong, and dependable, perhaps the chaos would fade and they would understand the value you provide. But sweet soul, the divine will not allow you to continue this way. You weren't born to be eroded in silence. Some think your strength is limitless, that someone as grounded as you will never truly walk away. They're mistaken. They fail to see that your stability is sacred, and the universe fiercely protects it. No one can exploit something sacred without facing consequences. You once made yourself smaller to keep a structure intact, while others never lifted a finger to build with you. You took the blame not because you were wrong, but to prevent a collapse, swallowing every hurt to maintain a false peace. But do you realize what happens when a foundation endures too much? It begins to crack, slowly deteriorating like a fortress wall under a persistent leak. Ancient wisdom reminds us that there is no greater merit than letting go of what destroys you from the ground up. And in the Holy Scriptures, it is said, "My patience is not approval, it is a final chance for change." So, if they refuse to change, if they continue to take from you while expecting you to remain, if they mistake your endurance for weakness, then it will be the very earth that speaks for you. Can you see it now? Everything around you is shifting. Old structures are fracturing, and those who once relied on you are fading into silence. The places you once felt secure now seem unstable, not because of anything you did, but because your energy is being purified, and the divine is clearing your path. Being strong doesn't mean being unbreakable, and loyalty doesn't require you to carry everyone else's weight. You shouldn't have to be a mountain, weathering every storm for others while your own core erodes. The universe is no longer silent, and you don't have to endure any longer. This is not a punishment. It's a wake-up call, not for you, but for those who took your strength for granted. In this next gate, we confront a profound truth. What collapsed wasn't you. It was everything that no longer deserved to be built on your foundation. There's a strange relief that comes not from someone's arrival, but from the collapse of an old structure. In that moment, you no longer need to explain, no longer wrestle with the choice between staying out of loyalty or leaving out of exhaustion. You simply exhale, as if your soul has finally been released from an invisible weight that held it down. Taurus, you are not being removed from anything. What's leaving your life is not a lost asset. It's the energy that kept you small, silent, and made you question your worth. Love should never feel like a burden. Real love doesn't require you to slowly crumble to prove your loyalty. You once thought, if I just work a little harder, maybe they will understand. So, you compromised, worked tirelessly, and chipped away at your own essence. You prayed for stability, promising to endure better. You sat alone in the quiet, hands on your chest, hoping that by holding on long enough, something would change. But change didn't come from them. It came from the divine. You weren't meant to survive in an environment that depleted your spirit. The universe has watched as you gave without receiving, saw your resilience tested by heartbreak, and recognized your hands still trying to build even after being pushed away. It knew that if you continued this way, you would slowly lose yourself trying to save what was never meant to be saved. So now, the universe is intervening for you. This might manifest as an unexpected argument, someone disappearing without a word, or a crack forming in a relationship for no clear reason. But the truth is, what collapsed wasn't you. It was what no longer belonged to you. In Buddhist teachings, we learn that when a bond ends, karma dissolves not because you did something wrong, but because every connection has a role that, once fulfilled, must come to an end. In the Bible, it is said, "I cut off the branches that bear no fruit, not out of hatred, but so the tree can thrive." Perhaps you prayed to keep a relationship, an opportunity, or a person you believed was your destiny, but God saw what you could not, the roots drying up, draining all the light and nourishment. You weren't pulled away from anything. You were being returned to yourself. And that is not a loss, it's a miracle. You may not see it yet, and your heart may still ache. But within that ache, something new is beginning to grow, a stillness you never had in that relationship. A bright corner in your life where sunlight now pours in. A night's sleep unbroken by anxiety and fear. Can you feel yourself breathing more freely? Are your thoughts clearer now? Can you sense your soul returning? That is the sign of true healing. And it arrives only when what no longer deserves you is removed. Not every ending is a failure. Some endings are grace, the kindest gift heaven could offer, even if you're not ready to admit it. The ones who left without a word, who made you doubt your intuition, who caused you pain while you loved them, they are no longer part of your journey. This isn't abandonment, it's liberation. Taurus, don't view this as a loss. You are being returned to the most precious thing of all, your inner stability. You can now sit alone in a quiet room and not feel lost. You can gaze into the mirror without asking, "Who am I beneath all this weight?" Take a moment to breathe deeply and remember the last time you felt relief after a burden was lifted. Wasn't that also the first time you truly breathed, not merely to survive, but to exist? The universe didn't take them away to punish you. It removed them to save you from what you couldn't let go of. You don't need to hold on to what God has already lifted from your shoulders. If your heart agrees, write down your first vow of acceptance. I no longer need to carry what God has lifted from my shoulders. You are stepping into a new chapter 1, where you don't have to fight against instability because it no longer surrounds you. And the most beautiful part is, you're not alone in this journey. The universe, the Creator, whatever name you choose to call it, is walking beside you, clearing the path and stripping away what used to cling to you, allowing light to reach the parts of you that need healing. But this removal is not the end. It's the sacred beginning of something greater, an opportunity where you no longer have to struggle just to survive, but instead you begin to rise, not with fury, but with light. In the next part, you will discover why the universe chose you to hold the lamp in this dark night. There's a truth your soul has long known, but your heart hasn't yet accepted. You were never cast aside. You were called home. Light is never banished. It's simply sent to where it's needed most. Do you recall those days when it felt like the world turned its back on you? Days when you held yourself upright, in silence, determined not to be left behind. In those lonely hours when no one could see or hear you. That's when the clearest voice emerged. You were never abandoned. You were chosen, not to reclaim anything from anyone, but to move forward as if you were never held back. No one needs to grant you permission. Heaven has already paved the way. The light within you, though buried beneath doubt and sorrow, is rising again, slowly but surely, quietly, yet undeniably. You once believed you had to work harder to be worthy. But the truth is, you don't need anyone to declare you enough. The divine has seen it all, and it has moved on your behalf. In Buddhist teachings, the Heart Sutra reveals a profound truth: when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. This means that if you return to the truth within your heart, the entire universe will shift to support you. In the faith of the steadfast heart, God doesn't appear in thunder or dazzling miracles. He whispers in the hearts of those who have endured and still choose to love. You are one of them. You once stayed silent to maintain stability, thinking that if you were just a little more patient, they might stay. But now you understand that silence doesn't save anyone. Sometimes it's how you lose your soul's voice. Now is the time to speak your truth, not to win, but to reclaim yourself. Something within you rises, like a river long dammed, now unleashed by the divine rain. A new life, a new path awaits you. And even though no one is leading you, you know exactly where your feet must tread. Can you feel it? Something vast is approaching, not a disaster, but a sacred calling for a soul that has yielded, waited, given, and endured for far too long. The universe is whispering in your ear. You have waited long enough. Now is the time to rise. Pause for a moment and listen. Can you feel your heart trembling like a sacred bell ringing, not from fear, but from the knowledge that your true name has just been called? If even a small part of you stirs at that sound, now is the moment to write this down. I was chosen for this ground, not because I proved myself, but because it was always mine. You don't have to fight for what has always belonged to you. You only need to remember and claim it before the light can fully rise, before you can truly become the free soul who no longer needs to ask for permission to be your whole self. There will be one final test. A mist may fall over your path, a moment that appears as a setback. Someone from your past may return, like a ghost, asking, "Are you truly ready to leave the old behind?" But remember, what's coming to you is not just a reward. It's the restoration of a destiny long delayed. There are things you've endured that no one has ever seen. Wounds you've held like silent prayers, not out of weakness, but because you believed that if you kept your heart pure, life would soften again. Taurus, has anyone truly seen you? Has anyone witnessed those moments when you sat alone, fists clenched, because the tears wouldn't come. No one has, but the miracle is that you don't need anyone to witness it. Heaven has already seen, and the universe never overlooks a pure soul. There are truths that don't require witnesses, like light. They only need to be present, and darkness dissolves on its own. You have been that presence in rooms where no one noticed, in conversations where your voice was silenced, in relationships where your kindness was taken for granted. Yet, everything you gave is now quietly flowing back to you, like a sacred stream returning to its ancient source. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches that a good heart planted never goes to waste. It only awaits the right season to bear fruit. And in the Bible, God whispers comfort during your darkest nights. Every tear you have shed, I have counted, and I shall return them to you multiplied in blessings. This is no longer a promise, it's confirmation. Truth needs no defense. It shines on its own, just like you. You remained silent, not because you were wrong, but because you understood that sacred things cannot be explained to those who measure only by gain. You forgave not because they deserved it, but because you knew that resentment is a chain we lock around our own souls. Now, what once felt heavy is dissolving, little by little. Through the way, heaven is returning everything to you, not with words, but through purification. You may begin to notice those who hurt you facing their own storms, losing what they once held dear. But remember, this isn't a moment for smugness. It's a moment to understand that divine justice needs no audience. You don't have to recount your struggles, for heaven has recorded it all, and the universe is completing the rest for you. No one can live in peace after wounding a pure soul. That is a law that requires no proof or debate, just enough time for good seeds to bloom. Have you noticed how your heart feels lighter lately? How the air around you doesn't weigh as heavily as it once did? Those who no longer belong are quietly leaving your life. This isn't random. It's a sign that your soul is being released. You don't need revenge. You don't need to fight back. You don't need to prove anything at all, because what you need is on its way, and what you no longer need is being removed, all without noise, without rush, but with the precision of a sacred ritual set long ago. If this resonates with you, whisper this vow to the universe: I do not seek earthly justice. I trust in divine arrangement. You didn't come here to defeat anyone. You came to become light. And light never argues with darkness. It simply radiates, allowing everything untrue to melt away. So, keep walking gently, as if everything you need is walking towards you, because in truth, it is. Now, there's just one final step to close this chapter, not in tears, but in restoration. You will hear the ultimate confirmation from heaven. You are never cast aside. You are being summoned into the brightest chapter of your life. Dear Taurus, you don't need to return to demand justice, because justice has arrived in the form of a new beginning. You don't need to explain why you walked away. You didn't walk away. You are returning to the very ground where the light has awaited you all these years. This isn't a warning, it's a ceremony, a confirmation from heaven, from the universe, from the souls who walked before you, that you have endured enough. Now, it's time for you to receive. From this day forward, you no longer need to carry burdens, no longer need to live to please anyone, and no longer need to remain silent to prove your worth. You are the chosen one, not to endure more, but to continue in peace and abundance. Thank you, Taurus, for staying until the very end. Thank you for not abandoning your foundations on the coldest days. If this video serves as a small mirror reflecting your soul, then may the light within you shine brighter than ever before. You deserve a new chapter, serene, stable, and richly blessed. May every good thing be on its way to you.